Ovo je Jazeera Svijet. Ja sam Azra Hadžić. U nastavku emisije gledajte. Zdravstveni sistem Gaze u kolapsu. Povrijeđenih sve više, resursa sve manje. Ljekari obavljaju operacije dok ih bombardiraju. Na okupiranoj Zapadnoj obali raste broj ubijenih Palestinaca, a u izraelskim vojnim zatvorima sve više maloljetnika koji se suočavaju s okrutnim metodama ispitivanja. Sionizam nije isto što i judaizam, kaže za Al Jazeeru rabin Yisroel Dovid Weiss. Izvinjava se za svu patnju Palestinaca, posebno jer se čini u ime judaizma. Zdravstveni sistem Gaze je u kolapsu, saopćilo je Ministarstvo zdravstva. Izraelski zračni napadi ne jenjavaju, pa ljekari u Gazi rade danonoćno kako bi spasili živote. Bolnice se suočavaju s kritičnim nedostatkom medicinskih zaliha i goriva, a mnoge su zatvorene. Ljekari su prinuđeni operirati pacijente bez anestezije, a inficirane rane čiste sirčetom. Al Jazeera je snimila sa čime se palestinski medicinski radnici i pacijenti suočavaju.
Gaza's hospitals are overflowing with the wounded, the living and the dead. Doctors and paramedics are at breaking point.
الناس راحت أشلاء. إيش أحكي لك؟ إيش أحكي لما أحكي المناظر اللي شفناها لا يرثى لها.
But they say they can't stop working.
حنرجع على رأس عملنا برغم اللي صار.
On the 17th of October, a blast ripped through the grounds of Al Ahli Hospital in Gaza City, killing hundreds of people.
I was in the operating room when the missile struck and the false ceiling of the operating room fell on us.
Patients were moved to Al Shifa Hospital, where a doctor says they received 400 wounded in just 24 hours.
And we're short of everything. I've had to use vinegar to treat this wound infection.
خلص يعني ما بقدر اتحمل نفسي لانه المناظر اللي انا شفتها كل شوي بتتمها في راس الواحد ما صعب انك تنساها نهائيا.
Brahim Haidar Sakalla was one of the paramedics working around the clock when a blast struck Al Ahli Hospital on October 17th.
أنا جنب الإسعاف طرت وخبطت في الإسعاف وقعت على الأرض كمان ما بعرف إيش الجيران اللي جنبي لقيتهم شهداء. كلهيتها كانوا قاعدين أطفال وشبابها كلهيته مستشفى.
Just a day before the bombing, a video captured at Al Ahli Hospital shows children playing and chanting. The hospital had initiatives to help children cope with trauma from the ongoing war.
وعلى المراجيح وبيعملوا وفتحوا لهم على أساس إنه يرفعوا عليهم شوية، لكن صار اللي صار. جايين بأمان الله إن هالمستشفى آمنة وأمن من بيته، شردوا من بيوتهم، صارت المجزرة عندنا في قلب المستشفى. ضرب توقع عندنا 32 شهيد بس من عائلة واحدة. 32 شهيد من عائلة قوطة. هذول لحالهم. وغيرهم.
Israel has a history of targeting healthcare facilities and medical personnel. The World Health Organization has documented at least 171 attacks on healthcare services in the occupied Palestinian territory since October 7th.
Around 5:30, I realized that I needed to operate into the night and I wasn't going to travel at night because it was going to be dark, and I stayed behind, and that's when it happened.
Ghassan Abu Sitta is a British Palestinian doctor. When Israel began bombing Gaza, he left his family in the UK to volunteer there as a surgeon.
On Saturday night, I realized that this war was going to be very vicious. Monday morning, I was in Gaza through the Rafah crossing. I've been to all of Gaza's wars, and I've been to other wars in Yemen and Iraq and Syria, so I have almost a 30-year experience in doing these kinds of missions.
Dr. Abu Sitta was in the middle of his surgery when the missile struck at Al Ahli Hospital. He says the hospital was already far beyond capacity before the explosion.
It was absolute mayhem. There were bodies everywhere. The emergency department was full of dead and dying. There were people who had amputations. And then I went to another guy who'd had a shrapnel in his neck, and I had pressure on his neck while we were resuscitating him, and that's the patient I brought to Shifa Hospital.
Many patients who survived the bombing at Al Ahli were transferred to Al Shifa Hospital, which is Gaza's largest public hospital. But like all healthcare facilities in Gaza, it's on the brink of collapse.
We're short of everything. We're short on supplies, we're short on medication. You've seen I've had to use vinegar to treat this wound infection. The fact that this wound infection happened is partly because of the delay in taking this patient to the operating room.
Doctors are forced to treat patients in corridors and on the streets due to a lack of hospital beds.
Gaza's total bed capacity was 2,500 before the war.
Doctors like Abu Sitta continue to provide care while bombs fall around them.
For me, Gaza is a special place because it's a Palestinian and it's someone whose family became refugees in Gaza. This is where home is.
Israel ordered more than 1 million Palestinians to evacuate from the northern part of the Gaza Strip, where Al Ahli Hospital and Al Shifa Hospital are located. The World Health Organization has condemned the evacuation orders of hospitals, calling them a death sentence. But even those who are fleeing south are getting bombed. AJ Plus went to Nasser Hospital in southern Gaza.
كل حياتنا معرضة للخطر. لا في مستشفى لا في مدارس، هيم قاعدين يقصفوا المدارس وقصفوا المستشفيات، وين ما نروح بدهم يقصفوا. واللي بيصير فينا هذا مش حرب، هذه إبادة.
Despite following Israeli orders to flee south, neighborhoods in southern Gaza have also been reduced to rubble. Gaza's health ministry says Israel killed more than 700 people on October 23rd alone, most of them in the south.
أنا جيت من غزة يعني انقصفت دارنا وما لقيتش ملجأ يعني فاجيت عند أهلي هنا على المستشفى. الأوضاع كانت كتير صعبة يعني بالذات على الأطفال يعني أنا خفت على ابني أكثر إشي علشان هيك يعني لجأت للمستشفى.
Hospitals are so overwhelmed that they have to prioritize the most critically wounded patients. This Palestinian man is only 19 years old.
وأنا كمصاب أنا بدي رعاية. طلع أنت شايف بلاتين عظم متفتفت فش لا رعاية ولا شيء. لما الحمد لله المي لما نروح نشرب مي بدنا نصف دور، لما نروح على الحمام بدنا نصف دور، لما نروح نشتري خبز بدنا نصف دور، كل إشي دور. خبز أصلاً بطلوا يبيعوا خبز.
As dead bodies and wounded people continue to overwhelm Gaza's hospitals, Palestinians say a ceasefire is needed urgently.
بدنا الأمان وبدنا يعني نستقر وبدنا نرجع لبيوتنا يعني أنا بيتي هذا مش عارفة بعد ما تخلص الحرب بدنا نروح إحنا يعني.
رسالة الآن بتطلعونا بعين الرحمة، وقتيش بدك تطلعونا بعين الرحمة لما نموت بكفي.
Izrazito je teška humanitarna situacija u pojasu Gaze. Ponestalo je pitke vode, a zalihe hrane su pri kraju. Mnogi Palestinci koji su izloženi riziku da umru od gladi pobjegli su iz domova i potražili utočište u pretrpanim izbjegličkim kampovima. Resul Serdar izvještava o grupi volontera u kampu Al-Shat i u Kan Yunisu koji osiguravaju hranu za porodice u potrebi.
Deseci hiljada raseljenih žive u ovom kampu koji je osnovala Agencija UN-a za pomoć palestinskim izbjeglicama u Han Yunisu. Napustili su svoje domove na sjeveru pojasa Gaze kako bi pobjegli od izraelskih zračnih napada. Mnogi su izgubili članove porodice, sada im prijeti glad. Grupa volontera koju predvodi Abu Ibrahim nada se da će im barem malo olakšati patnju. Dijele im čorbu od graha i leće.
أنا وأسرتي 9 أنفار نجي هنا كباقي الناس كان الأكل مش كافي ففكرة اللي نعمل أكل طوعي للناس مجانا مجموعة شباب كنا مع بعضنا شايف كيف وأنا لي خبرة في العمل الجماهيري كونه مدير عام في التوجيه السياسي الوطني رام الله.
Stotine kamiona s humanitarnom pomoći čekaju na graničnom prijelazu Rafa između Egipta i pojasa Gaze, ali samo je nekoliko desetaka dobilo dozvolu za ulazak u Gazu u proteklim danima. Prema podacima UN-a, to je samo 2% prosječnih zaliha hrane koje bi bile isporučene prije rata. Iz humanitarne organizacije Oxfam kažu da se izgladnjivanje koristi kao oružje u ratu.
Our ability to assess the situation with very precise data is extremely difficult to really, and we can't reach people, we can't reach affected communities to also do those assessments to understand really how much supplies do they have left. I would expect that people from with better incomes might have more supplies, but people that are struggling, knowing that more than half of Gaza lives under the poverty line, are already starving.
Pitka voda je zagađena, a zaliha hrane ponestaje.
خد الفكره وحكاها لناس هنا بهمهم امر الناس وشافوا متبرعين من الناس واحنا استعدينا نتطوع وبدينا من امبارح ننفذ الفكره. طبخنا امبارح عدس من طعم 50 اسره حوالي 500 شخص.
Iz palestinske uprave za vode kažu da je isporuka vode u Gazi pala na svega 5% ukupne prosječne količine, jer je postrojenjima za desalinizaciju potrebno gorivo. Neprestani izraelski zračni napadi su oštetili ili potpuno uništili pekare i supermarkete. Uz neprestano bombardovanje, bez vode i hrane, život miliona Palestinaca visi o koncu.
Iz UN-a kažu da su nakon 7. oktobra napadi izraelske vojske i doseljenika na Palestince na okupiranoj zapadnoj obali sve učestaliji. Ubijeno je najmanje 120 Palestinaca. Prema podacima kluba palestinskih zatvorenika, uhapšeno ih je najmanje 850. Međutim, napadi su se dešavali prije Hamasovih udara na Izrael. O jednom takvom s okupirane zapadne obale izvještava Charles Stratford.
Ulice su doslovno prazne u Huvari, palestinskom mjestu koje se nalazi u okolini grada Nablusa na okupiranoj zapadnoj obali. Ilegalna izraelska naselja nalaze se svuda na okolnim brdima i nastavljaju se širiti. Sukobi između Palestinaca i izraelskih doseljenika česti su ovdje. Nekoliko Palestinaca i Izraelaca ubijeno je u posljednjih nekoliko mjeseci. 4. oktobra izraelska vojska natjerala je Palestince da prestanu raditi, a od tada situacija je još gora. Ljudi su ovdje, ali su uplašeni da izađu iz svojih domova. Mohamed Domaidi pokazuje nam video sina Labiba na mobitelu. Labib, student, opisuje svoju idealnu ženu. Nasmijava sve. Ubijen je 5. oktobra.
صار في مستوطنين اجوا على حواره تجمعوا عند محطه البنزين في نص البلد. هلا بعدين اجت مجموعه ثانيه بجوز من 10 ل 15 واحد مشاة من الشارع من عند مفرق طول كريم. ضلوا ماشيين مشوا من هون ما فيش حدا ضرب عليهم احجار كانوا.
Ovaj video pokazuje izraelske doseljenike koji se nalaze u selu nekoliko minuta prije nego što će početi pucati. Mohamed kaže da su izraelski vojnici stajali i gledali to nasilje.
والمشكله قوات الاحتلال الجيش بيحميهم مش بيحمينا مثل ما هو بيدعي بيجي بيحميهم. هلا وهم لو انه فيش جيش ما بيتجرؤوا بالطريقه هذه. كان عنده احلام كبيره كان بده يكون تاجر بده.
Labivova majka Najla vodi nas do mjesta gdje je ubijen njen sin.
بس سمعت اطلاق النار حسيت قلبي طلع من مكانه. صرت احكي اولادي يا ربي اولادي. طلعت بحكوا لي لبيب تصاوب. نزلوا فيه تحت ما خلونا نمشي معاه اولها. طلع عمه ماسكينه صاروا يضربوا علينا في قنابل غاز. حطوها هنا.
Sukobi su izbili tokom Labibove sahrane jer je izraelska vojska pokušala zabraniti molitvu ožalošćenih na glavnoj gradskoj ulici.
Palestinians living along the Hawara Road have suffered decades of violence by Israeli settlers living on the hills close by. But they say that since those Hamas attacks inside Israel on October the 7th, the situation here has got even worse.
Palestinci sve više protestuju širom okupirane zapadne obale. Isto tako raste nasilje doseljenika protiv Palestinaca. Kancelarija Ujedinjenih nacija za koordiniranje humanitarnih pitanja u manje od 2 sedmice zabilježila je više od 80 napada izraelskih doseljenika koji su rezultirali palestinskim žrtvama i oštećenjem imovine.
Broj palestinske djece s okupirane zapadne obale u izraelskim zatvorima neprestano raste. Grupe za ljudska prava tvrde da se maloljetni Palestinci suočavaju s teškim uvjetima u pritvoru i okrutnim metodama ispitivanja. Izvještava Hoda Abdelhamid.
Kako to često biva na okupiranoj zapadnoj obali, dan koji je počeo mirno vrlo brzo pretvorio se u dramu.
عادي بنطارد في السيارة مبسوطين وعادي ماشيين طبيعي. مرة واحدة السيارة وقفت خربت نزلنا نشوف مالها.
Ajham je pogođen s 3 metka u desnu ruku, stomak i lijevo stopalo. Prije samo nekoliko mjeseci Ajham i njegov brat Vadija uhapšeni su tokom noćne racije. Njihovo iskustvo slično je ovom, na video snimku koji je 2016. objavila izraelska grupa za ljudska prava Becelem. Otac budi sinove, govoreći im da se ne boje i da je vojska tu. Ajham i Vadija odvedeni su pred bespomoćnim roditeljima.
مرعب يعني الموقف اقول لك احنا كنا قاعدين في البقعه متر في متر فكنا اثنين انا واخوي يعني ننام نقدرش ننام هيك على شرسي يده تكرمز تقدرش تمد حالك ولا شيء.
Trenutno se u izraelskim zatvorima nalazi više od 180 maloljetnika. Brojni među njima zbog manjih dijela poput bacanja kamenja na vojnike ili poput ovog 13-godišnjeg djeteta koje je uhapšeno jer je bralo samoniklo bilje u blizini ilegalnog izraelskog naselja.
Many of the detainees are taken to prisons inside Israel. Parents need to apply for a visitation permit through the Red Cross, and that could take up to 3 months. In the meantime, the minor is cut off from the world.
Tokom svake godine u izraelskim vojnim zatvorima bude pritvoreno najmanje 800 maloljetnih Palestinaca. Izrael tvrdi da je to zbog sigurnosnih razloga. Dobna granica za krivičnu odgovornost na okupiranom području je 12 godina. To se ne odnosi na doseljenike koji napadaju Palestince.
Palestinian children are potential terrorists. So this is the mentality by which the Israeli officials are treating Palestinian children. So first of all, they convince themselves that they are treating or dealing with potential terrorists and behaving accordingly.
15-godišnji Ahmed al-Atraš još zadrhti kada se prisjeti svoje muke. Prije nekoliko sedmica išao je u Hebron na šišanje. Na njega su nasrnuli izraelski vojnici.
أنا أول ما أخذوني ما سوولوش إشي ولا إشي بس يوم ما أخذوني على المعسكر يعني وين في الشارع ما ضربونيش بس يوم ما أخذوني على المعسكر وكنت خايف عليهم كتير يعني خاص نص أمي كنت خايف عليها كتير.
Ahmed je pušten nakon 2 sedmice, ali to traumatično iskustvo ostavit će trag na njega, kao i na brojnu djecu koja se suočavaju s vojnim zatvorima i sudovima do kraja života.
Proteklih sedmica u gradovima širom svijeta milioni su marširali u znak solidarnosti s Palestinom i zahtijevajući okončanje izraelskog bombardiranja Gaze. Protesti se događaju u trenutku kada su mnoge zapadne vlade, uključujući američku i britansku, izrazile podršku pravu Izraela da se brani.
Dok Izrael širi napad na Gazu, širom svijeta odjekuju pozivi svjetskim liderima da pomognu da se okonča nasilje. Ovo je glavni grad Pakistana, Islamabad, gdje je ogroman broj ljudi izašao na ulice.
हम हुकूमत से ये अपील करते हैं, उनको बेदार करते हैं कि आप उठें और उनका साथ दें। वो हमारे मुसलमान भाई हैं, वो सिर्फ वो एक मुल्क नहीं है, बल्कि वो क्या है, वो किबला अव्वल है हमारा।
Većina država podržala je nedavno donesenu rezoluciju Ujedinjenih nacija koja poziva na održivo humanitarno primirje, ali mnogi izraelski saveznici na zapadu nisu. Australija je bila uzdržana, što je naljutilo i izazvalo nevjericu mnogih koji su se okupili u Sidneju na protestima.
It's anyone that has any kind of morality, any kind of humanity would definitely be standing with that kind of cause.
Many Jews like me reject what Zionists are doing in our name. We reject the genocide that is continuing in Palestine, and the savagery is quite unbelievable.
Španija je jedna od samo 8 država Evropske unije koje su podržale potpuni prekid vatre. U glavnom gradu Madridu osjeća se frustracija zbog nepostojanja evropskog konsenzusa da se okonča krvoproliće.
Es una vergüenza lo que está pasando con el pueblo palestino y que toda Europa, algunos gobiernos europeos lo estén incluso apoyando. Entonces creo que los ciudadanos deberíamos salir a las calles y movilizarnos.
U Njemačkoj je ukinuta tromjesečna zabrana za skupove i isticanje zastava, što je omogućilo članovima jedne od najvećih palestinskih zajednica u Evropi da se okupi u ljutnji i tuzi. Proteklih nekoliko sedmica milioni su marširali u raznim gradovima širom svijeta, a vapaji za mir postaju sve očajniji.
A na proteste podrške palestinskom narodu redovno izlazi rabin i aktivist iz Njujorka Yisroel Dovid Weiss. Glasnogovornik grupe ultraortodoksnih jevreja Neturei Karta, Jevreji protiv cionizma, za Al Jazeeru govori koliko je važno ne poistovjećivati judaizam i cionizam. Izvinjava se Palestincima za svu patnju, posebno jer im se čini u ime judaizma. Tvrdi, sve što se dešava danas Palestincima je samo kako bi Izrael zataškao svoju nelegitimnu okupaciju.
It's not how I personally look at this. It's how, as a Jew who's observant, who's following the rules of the Judaism, of the Torah, we are, since well over 75 years. 75 years is the existence of the state of Israel, but its ideology was another 50 years or so. And since its fruition, since it started this movement of Zionism, which is the ideology behind the state of Israel, the religious rabbis around the world stood up in total opposition to this Zionism, because as they tried and continually try to explain to the world that Judaism is subservience to God. That's what it's all about. It's a religion of 3,000 years, while Zionism is a mere 150 years. It's a transformation to nationalism, to have a piece of land. It's a political movement. It's a materialistic movement. It was started by Jews who are non-religious, and they're simply incorporating, using the name Israel, using the Star of David, and claiming that it's a God, it's given to them by God. And we who are following the Torah, who are true to the Torah, stand up adamantly refuting what they're saying. The Torah clearly states that we shall not kill, we shall not steal, and the whole concept is strange, is totally antithetical to our teachings, contradictory. The Jewish community had been living together with the Muslim community and the Christian community, and since this movement started, and since they gained hold in the land and eventually got rule over the land, there's been endless bloodshed. There's hate that has grown thousandfold. It's a wedge driven between the Jews and the Muslims, and it's brought death and suffering to the Palestinian people in the majority, but to the Jewish populace also. As we see this last Saturday, it was shocking to the world, but the world doesn't seem to take in regard the 75 years that every day almost you have Palestinian death and suffering. But we as Jews do take this into consideration. We say this is clearly a rebellion against God, and it hurts us more than usual because it's being done in our name. And the rabbis you are seeing, the power bases that you are seeing in the settlements that is fringe to the Jewish communities, those are the ones who bought into this tale that it's God's wish. But the central part of Judaism, the very religious, in whatever country, maybe in Argentina, the very religious says, no, we're dead set against this. We cry with the Palestinians. And therefore, what's happening today in Gaza, that they're bombing them relentlessly, and they're pointing and they're accusing them of being animals. It's even hard to repeat, and whatever they say of them, of being terrorists, it's not. It's all to cover their totally illegitimate occupation. And to that, I'll bring a simple proof. We lived together, the Jewish community, for hundreds of years in Palestine, in Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Iran, in all the countries we lived and flourished as religious Jews amongst religious Muslims without any human rights groups to protect us. We always lived together. We babysat each other's children, even though we have a distinctly different religion. And it was never a cause of animosity. All that changed is the introduction of Zionism, the control of the land. And since that came, which is not 1948, it's in the 1890s or so, and they started coming in and taking over the lands. Since then, there's death and suffering. the Palestinians and of the Jews, because they are creating this fear, this hate, this estrangement. We can show many pictures how the Jews live together. Anybody old Arab will tell you, and every old Jew, how we used to babysit each other's children, like I say, and help each other. And I've had many stories of people will tell us. So it's clearly what these Ben Gvir and these other people are saying. They are coming from Mizrahi. That is that segment that is religious Zionists, but not the central, what we call the Eid Chorei, this God-fearing community, and around the world. We stand in total opposition, and it hurts us, and we have no words for the suffering, the Palestinians. That's why we came out, let's even today. Yes, we go out in tens of thousands, but we would have hundreds of thousands demonstrating constantly, but the fear of the repercussions from the Zionists, because they're vicious. We went out, 2 days ago to Manhattan. We demonstrated. I came back, the tar cars were slashed, the mirrors were broken. This is nothing to what they threat. They have death threats, and in Jerusalem and Al-Quds and in the other parts of occupied Palestine, they people get killed and arrested and so forth. So there's a reason why there's less of a voice that you will hear, even though our communities are full in opposition to Zionism. One day this will end. It's against God. And we as Jews are crying and hurting with them and praying for them. And we go out tirelessly. Some of us go out all the time. I mean, we're doing this for years. And many of others, there's demonstrations in front of the UN, and therefore we're going out. A lot of the media doesn't cover it because they know that they will be accused of being anti-Semitic. But we try, and we hope that with God's help, that with his compassion, that he will free them, and ultimately with a totally free Palestine, we as Jews will be able to show our tremendous gratification for the fact that we were embraced and taken in when we suffered in Europe. We went through crusades, inquisitions. It was the Muslim countries that took us in, and we flourished there. So we should be able to show again our gratefulness, and not to watch how they're being vilified. We hope it will happen soon in our days, and we apologize that what's being done in the name of Judaism.
Toliko u ovoj emisiji. Hvala za pažnju. Doviđenja.